Miracles really do happen. This exact one happened at around exactly 10 years ago. I had been called on a work assignment in South Africa, and I had just had a baby at the time, and so I was still nursing. And so instead of just going, by myself, I decided to go with my infant, and my mother-in-law, blessed memory, at the time had gone with me. And I went with my family, except my husband, kids, mother-in-law, and myself. And so, of course, traveling with kids, you'd have extra luggage and all of that. And so when I arrived at the airport in South Africa, in Johannesburg, I was the one who loaded off. Mom-in-law was with the baby, and so I loaded on, picked up the luggage from the carousel, loaded it on the trolley and everything. Going on that trip, of course, I had my work laptop, which I had in its own personal trolley bag that I always took on with me as a hand luggage. And so I had put that on the side with the intention of putting it on top of the entire luggage, which was on the trolley that I was going to be pushing. And so I had done everything, but for some reason, I don't know, of course it was an overnight flight. We were all really tired, and I can't really remember the details of that. I had shared this actually on Facebook after it happened, by the way, 10 years ago. However, I can't really remember the exact details of what happened at the airport, but at that time I left that hand luggage, which contained personal items, some money, and my computer, my work laptop in there. And then I went, of course, we got to the arrival section. There was a driver waiting to pick us up. Whenever I went, I always headed, the office I was working with was in Pretoria. And so the driver was waiting to take us to the guest house in Pretoria. And so we went. I can't remember the details, but I think the drive is about an hour. I think it was an hour drive or even more. And so we went, drove in, got to the guest house, checked in. I needed to refresh because I was going to get to the office since it was an overnight flight. I went in, took a shower, got dressed, got ready to head out to the office. And then I was about to get to the office and I'm like, oh my God, where is my computer bag? We checked in the trunk of the car that had brought us. The driver who had brought us, of course, loaded the vehicle. So I didn't even notice that that bag was not with me on our drive from Johannesburg to Pretoria. So I started to panic, went to meet the driver, told him I couldn't find part of my luggage, and which was actually the most important piece of luggage, because the purpose of my visit to South Africa that period was for work. And without my work computer, I wouldn't be able to do anything. Of course, getting to the office, they might be able to get new computer for me and all of that, but being able to gather the document information I had saved on that computer would take probably days even for them to set up a new computer for me, and I was going to be losing time for the work that I had gone to do there. So I called the office, let them know that I had left this bag at the airport and that I needed to get back. They told me to take my time. I could still have like half the day up until lunchtime to do whatever it is that I needed to do. And so we headed back out to Johannesburg from Pretoria. On our way, the driver, who was Afrikaans, we got into conversation and started to talk, and he was like, by the way, I'm just doing this because I'm, just doing my job, but just to let you know, I don't think you're going to find that bag anymore. This is South Africa. Items like that are unmanned at the airport usually just go missing and nobody can account for it. And as we were having that conversation, I just remembered that was a Monday. We had flown out of the country on Sunday evening, and so we arrived Monday morning. And I remember I was listening to a message. It was actually by Bishop David Oyedepo, and as he was, he was just speaking forth, and he said something. He said, nothing missing, nothing broken. This week, nothing missing, nothing broken. And I just held on to that word. And at that point, while I was having the conversation with the driver, I just remembered that, and I was like, I believe I'm going to find it. I believe I'm a person of faith. I believe very strongly that that bag is going to be secured, and I'm going to find it. Mind you, this was probably like over 2 hours since we arrived, since I had left that bag in front of the carousel. And so anyways, we got to the airport, and we went to meet security, because of course you can't get into arrival, from outside, and you can't get into where the carousel is and things like that. So we went to security, explained everything. They took me to a certain back office and all of that. And then they requested for my passport and my boarding pass, just to confirm that I had truly arrived in South Africa that morning. And oh my gosh, at that moment, I realized that I had, in my panicking and anxiety and all of that, I didn't even remember that I needed to take my passport and my boarding pass with me. So that was even another layer of not even being able to get help. So the moment I said I didn't have that, the person who they took us to just shut down. She started to speak, and she was speaking to somebody else. And they were speaking in, I don't know the language, perhaps Zulu, but they started to speak, and then she was like, no way, there's no way, I just saw her, declining, she had a negative front, like, no, they're not going to do this. So we asked to escalate. We wanted to speak to somebody else. We asked them, okay, they can check security cameras, things at the airport, that this was really urgent and I couldn't live without it. Long story short, we spent about 3 hours in the airport that morning, and going back and forth all through and the driver was already like, he wanted to be there with me, he wanted to support, but that he had other clients that he was supposed to pick up, and that even though he had made other arrangements, he couldn't just be with me at the airport indefinitely trying to get this out. And just at that time, gentleman just walked up to me and said that, what is going on? I have seen you at the airport since morning. You've been walking up and down, pacing. You've looked worried. What's going on? And I explained everything to him. And then he told me to give him a moment. Then he called me, asked that I come back with him to that same office that I had gone to initially when we arrived. And so we went together to that office. And then, he spoke to the lady and the other people who had declined and all of that. And they told us to go back and wait at the arrival section. And he asked me to give him some minutes. And then after about 15 minutes, he came back with my trolley bag. I could jump. Like, I was so ecstatic. I was so excited. Like, they could see the relief and the joy, the unbelief. The driver was like, he was so, full of unbelief at the time, that how did this happen and all of that. And they came and they were like, well, we know you don't have your passport or boarding pass, but the only way we can ensure or confirm that this is truly your bag is that you have to sign into your computer. And I was like, of course, I will not only sign into the computer, I will show you photos of myself, and I was going on, and they were just like, no, that's not necessary, just sign into the computer, and I did that. And once I did that, they told me to go away with everything. And initially the drive back to Pretoria was silent, because the driver didn't know what to say. And then eventually he said what you said earlier about being a person of faith. He said, I respect that. I respect the fact that you stood by your faith. I respect that you believed in something and you held on to it. I don't know. I hear there's a supernatural. I don't know about it. I don't know what to say. But whatever happened this morning at the airport was supernatural. There is no way, that an item that had been left unmanned for several hours at the airport could be found and intact, because I told him what I had inside. I told them at the airport when I arrived, I kept telling them I had this. I had an envelope with some cash, with some foreign currency, and I had this and I had that, and my computer and all of that. And then he was like, it's unbelievable. As I was going through certain challenges recently, my mind was cast back to this, and it occurred that this happened exactly 10 years ago, exactly about this time. And I just thought to share. Maybe there's somebody out there feeling that, oh, I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe that there's a God that exists, or that miracles do happen. I just want to encourage someone. I have so many experiences that are beyond what the human imagination can comprehend. And this is just one of it. And so I just want to encourage someone out there who's lost faith, or who doesn't believe that miracles still do happen. I just want to cheer you up. I just want to encourage you to say that miracles really do happen.